Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for waiting for just a minute. We were trying to get cameras working again for us today. We're going to talk about how to successfully learn online. We have a pretty packed agenda of things that we want to go over today, and we'll do a demo of our Blackboard online learning space as well. Good afternoon. My name is Nicole Lewillier-Fenton. I am our content marketing manager in UVM's Continuing and Distance Education Department. Today's agenda, we're going to meet our instructional designer, Pete Dietrich, who is joining me here as well. We'll learn a little bit more about Pete. What is online learning at UVM? I think such an important question as online learning is becoming more prevalent and lots of opportunities out there. What does that mean for our courses here at the University of Vermont? How to be successful as in an online classroom. How can you be a successful online student? We'll talk about that today as well. What are some of the online resources? Blackboard Demo. We'll take a look at that platform for you today and answer your questions and look at some of the online courses that are coming up and available for you as well. I do want to make note that in the chat box, please do put any questions throughout. I will try to keep an eye on those questions and toss them over to Pete as we have them come in. And so feel free to type in a question and ask throughout, and we'll also have an opportunity at the end. So joining me today is Peter Dietrich. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Hello, everyone.
Pete is our Associate Manager of Instructional Design here at the College of Continuing and Distance Education at UVM. Bachelor's degree from UVM, Master's of Education from Cabrini College, Master of Science and Learning Technologies from Drexel University, and really an integral part of our online courses here at the University of Vermont because he works closely with faculty, administrators from every college at UVM to design, develop, evaluate online courses and programs, ensuring the unique needs of online students are being met. And he skied with a moose. And I'm just going to leave that out there, and we'll think about that. Questions are welcome. Okay, so let's dive in. I see a question already coming from Carol. Will Blackboard work on computers using a Linux operating system?
Blackboard's web-based, so yes, it will.
Great, there we go. Simple answer to that, and that's a great one. Please do keep those questions coming in. And we are recording this feed also, and so we will share this webinar out afterwards. It does look like the camera might be a little bit delayed, so hopefully bear with us, and hopefully the audio is coming through for the presentation. So what is online learning at UVM? I think people are more adept at learning online. They're more open to learning online. But I think that can mean a variety of different ways that you can do that. What is learning online here at the University of Vermont?
Great question. So learning online means that you are freed from the constraints of the classroom and the campus, which is really empowering and a little bit frightening. So if you think about if I'm taking a class at night or for whatever reason I want, I get my parking spot, I got my seat in my classroom, I know where I'm going, I have this whole routine around that course that I'm taking. When you're learning online, you have to develop your own routine. Once again, very empowering, a little scary. So everything that happens within Blackboard, the learning management system, which is just a web interface. It's got a navigation bar on the left-hand side. We'll take a look at it later. A navigation bar around the top, just like your bank does and Amazon does and everybody else. And within that space is everything you need to do for a set period of time in your class. So when we work with instructors, we say, let's set it up for a week at a time. And the class generally opens up on a Monday and ends on a Sunday. And within that space, you have perhaps a recorded lecture from your instructor, some readings, whether that's an article from the New York Times or from a scholarly journal. You're going to have some participation in a class discussion board that your instructor is going to participate in with the other students. And they're going to say, you might have a knowledge check quiz to say, hey, these are the highlights, just want to check in on that. You might have to blogs, podcasts, wikis that you might have to create. You're given a set period of time, the resources that you need, and an assignment to measure your ability to master a topic. And for me as an adult learner, as a former K-12 educator who's taken online courses, it's the best. Because now I'm told what I need to do, I'm given the information that I need to do it, and it's up to me to make my plan to do it and to figure out what mastery is for me. And that's online learning at UVM. It's asynchronous. 90% of the time, it's going to be asynchronous. You're given a chunk of stuff to do, and you get to go ahead and do it. So I know some instructors do say that they want to have like a kickoff meeting or a meeting once a month to come together and chat live via Skype or Zoom or something, just to give a chance for this. You know, it is nice to sit next to a person.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are often recorded too. So if you didn't get the opportunity to jump in at 8 o'clock on a Wednesday, you're not going to miss out on the dialogue that was happening there.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's really important. Thank you so much. Helen, I see that you are experiencing a little bit more audio issues and coming from us. I apologize from that. We are continuing to work on some of that. So I think Pete touched upon the variety of benefits of online learning. Flexibility, I think, is the number one. Convenience, I think that probably pairs really well with flexibility, and academic rigor. A lot of times, that I'm sure you get this question all the time. Well, is it the same quality? Is it the same high standard that a class would be that I would be sitting in on UVM's campus? And what is the response to that?
Absolutely. So the metaphor that I use is it's like driving a stick shift car versus driving a manual car. It's the same standards, you know, like your radio's in the same spot, you've got an airbag, you've got a seatbelt, but it's different. Like it's a different skill. And so learning online takes a little bit of a different skill. And once again, that can be a little scary, right? Because I have to learn a new skill. But once you get it, it is, I can't go back to this enough, it is empowering to be in charge of your own learning. And it can be an extra bit of challenge because I'm in charge of it.
Right.
I don't sit up in a classroom and listen to somebody for 3 hours and walk away and then forget, you know, half of what I just learned. It is, I have to do the reading, I have to take the notes, and then I have to apply it. Right. Which is a little bit different than most on-campus courses.
One of the things that I've really loved about taking online courses is the opportunity to go back and to review things again, because, and I think that that's such a benefit versus sitting in a classroom, is that if there's something that you needed a refresher on, or if there's something that you grasp, but you just weren't quite sure, or you didn't grasp it at all, and you need to absolutely listen to that lesson again, you have that opportunity to do that in an online course.
Or when your professor shows that YouTube video in class, and he puts it up on the screen and everybody watches it, and you don't know where it is or how to find it again, well, if it's in Blackboard, I can bookmark it. Right? And it's there for me to use whenever I want.
Right. Yeah, I think absolutely. So I think then, and Pete has alluded to a lot of this as well, you know, how do you be successful in an online class? Oftentimes, and I'm sure you get this a lot, it's the first time you've taken an online course.
Absolutely.
And so it's intimidating. And I think one of the things that I've taken online courses as well is I don't necessarily know that I planned far enough in advance. And so that was one tip that I had that I share with people, is looking ahead at what the assignments are so that I can back out and plan for that time throughout the week, because you can't not plan for it, is what I had found. And what are some of these tips? We have a lot of tips up here. Why don't you go through some of the ones for folks?
Yeah, no, and the ones here are great. So if you think about it, I'm signing up for a class, and when I sign up for a brick and mortar class, I know that I'm going to be in that classroom 2 days a week for X amount of time. So schedule that time.
Right.
That's, I think, once again, the most empowering thing and the scariest thing about taking an online class is that you're in charge of you. And so it's up to you to make those habits to set yourself up for success. And so I got an online degree from Drexel University. So once again, I've drank the Kool-Aid, so I apologize for everybody in advance. It's not quite where I am. It was great. I had a set period of time where I did work on this particular schedule. I did, you know, it was for me, Monday and Tuesday night were heavy nights of working for me, and then again Thursday and Friday night, and then I could do a little bit of work over the weekend, and that was enough for me to stay on pace for my course. And I had a pretty strict schedule where I just said, look, it's, you know, class hat, it's 7 o'clock on a Tuesday, and now I'm going to go ahead and do this. The other thing is you can't see your instructor, so you have to be okay emailing questions. And none of us like doing that. myself included, because I don't want to be the person that's asking, like, what's the deal with the date, or why don't I get the directions? If you're wondering it, somebody else is thinking it. And
And they're so open to that. Every single instructor that I've had in our online
yeah,
courses have almost immediately gotten back to me, incredibly responsive, will often post the questions into the discussion board because, back to
right.
your point, somebody else is thinking the same thing. So he wants to take that value that he's provided and share it back with the group in
Right.
case nobody raised their hand, if you will.
They want to help.
Right.
They're teachers, right?
Right.
They want to help. So I think those are really the big hurdles, is setting up that time for yourself, being vigilant about using that time wisely,
Hmm.
and using and not being afraid to
Yeah.
communicate
Yeah.
in writing, either to your instructor or other folks. I had something I lost
Yeah.
it.
Well, how do what advice do you have on completing assignments on time? Because life gets in the way. I mean, and oftentimes, probably many people in our audience today are working professionals, full time working parents. Sometimes we're in that sandwich generation where we've got really obligations on either
Sure.
end in our personal lives. Um, how do you? What advice do you have to be able to make those assignments on time, and or to say something if you are concerned about making
Right.
it on time?
Uh, like you said, planning.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're in a course, and a lot of our credit courses run Monday to Sunday,
Hmm.
so if you think you might have a problem with the assignment, you, let's dig into that Wednesday and Thursday, so that I
Right.
can get an email out to my instructor on Friday, get some feedback that I can execute on
Right.
over the weekend when I might have a little bit more free time.
Right.
Um, all of CDE's professional courses actually run Wednesday to Tuesday.
Mm.
And we do that on purpose,
Right.
because for some folks, it's the weekend is their time to get things done. And that's the same for our instructors. Like,
Right.
that's personal time. So they might not always be as available. And so if you're working on something over the weekend and you have a question for your instructor, you can get it out to them, get an answer Monday, and then have Monday and Tuesday night to kind of wrap things up
Right.
before the next week opens on a Wednesday.
Yep.
And that's been an intentional design for us
Mm.
that we've gotten really great feedback on for that exact thing.
Right.
Hey, I got to go out of town and see my in-laws because this happened, or
Right.
like
Yeah.
whatever. I want to go away for the weekend for a wedding, friends getting married. If I'm a little bit younger than I am, so then, like, you now have
Right.
space on either end of that
Right.
to get your work done.
Again, the flexibility, it really is up to you, but it is on
Yeah.
your time to be able to do that. I saw something posted that I thought was really smart in terms of there was a question in terms of when does what is the class time frame? And it was listed weekends, evenings, anytime. And that's really what we're talking about
Right.
here. It's you find the time that it makes sense for you, but you do need to schedule and look for those opportunities, or else you will fall behind. Let's jump over. I do have a question while we're getting over to look at Blackboard. Let's pause for just a second. Andrea says she's currently taking my third UVM online class and have trouble keeping track of which learning materials, videos, readings, presentations I've completed. Is there a way to check them off as I've completed each one? Or a recommendation as to how
Uh,
to do that?
there's not an automatic thing, and I think that would be a great feature that we could get into Blackboard, kind of like an email mark as read.
Yeah.
And you could put a little checkbox
Yeah.
next to it, just as a learner to know, I'm done.
Yeah, that's a great.
No, when people ask this question, I suggest having a little post-it note on your desk or wherever you do your work, saying just quick things like name of the video, boom, 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 and then you get that wonderful pleasure of crossing it off or putting a line through it,
Mhm.
or whatever it is that I know. I'm one of those people. I like putting that line through that thing when it's done. So that's sorry, Andrea, there's not a thing that's built into the system that does that, but that would be my suggestion.
Hmm. Here's another great question. Leanne asks, do the instructors routinely provide the course timeline and when assignments are due at the beginning of the course?
Yes.
Yes.
So a lot of that is built into the syllabus.
Mhm.
And getting back to what's the pattern of my brick and mortar class, I show up on a Tuesday and a Wednesday, and this is where I park, and blah, blah, blah. We encourage all of our instructors to have this same cadence week in, week out in their online courses. So if you have an assignment due in week 1 on a Friday, let's do lunchtime on Friday. Then every week, let's have that type of assignment due lunchtime Friday.
Right.
Because then, as the learner, if I get into week 7 and all of a sudden I'm doing the same assignment that I've done 3 times already, but now it's due Sunday at midnight. I'm like, well, I don't understand.
Yeah. The consistency is
You
really
moved,
important.
you moved
Yeah.
the cheese.
Yeah.
Like, like, what is, it's not fair, you know? So that's something that we really try to work with people so that everybody can get into those routines.
This is wonderful. Greg, we're going to answer this because we'll actually do a quick demo of Blackboard as well. Greg says, this is my first online course. I've never used Blackboard before. When we received our welcome email about the course, will it include detailed instructions as a tutorial using Blackboard? Or is this webinar right now my only tutorial? No, this is not your only tutorial. This is just a little help you to warm up to taking your first online course webinar. Why don't you jump in? Why don't you jump in and
Okay.
take a look at Blackboard? You will absolutely have additional training opportunities once you have the login and information. But Pete's going to jump in. We're going to share his screen, and he's going to go into Blackboard and take a quick look around and show you some of the key places that you will be interacting, and in terms of where you can find your course materials, the opportunity to interact with your instructor, your classmates, where the assignments are due, how do you upload assignments, where are the different modules. So Pete, why don't you give us a quick look around?
Sure thing. So this is our Blackboard demo course. And you can get here from our website. It's learn.uvm.edu. Clicking on students and online learning will take you
To the demo.
to,
Yep.
yeah, to the link to the demo.
Yep.
Like I said earlier, Blackboard is laid out like a lot of other web-based applications you have. You have a navigation bar across the top. Yours is going to look a little bit different because you have different permissions than I do. So you're going to see student help here, but you won't see instructor help or system admin, which makes sense. On the left-hand side, we have a bunch of links that we can take to get into different areas of our course. So our home page takes us to our announcements. So your instructors make announcements as a way to communicate housekeeping things to the class or great things that other students are doing. A getting started page, which lays out the purpose of the course, what you need to do as a student to be successful, what I as an instructor expect you to do week in, week out. Our course syllabus, which this is a demo course, so it's pretty light on the syllabus, as you might imagine. A course schedule, which, as somebody said, do you lay out everything in advance? Yes. Right? Yeah. We want to lay it out all in advance, tell you what all your assignments are so that you can look at your life over the next X amount of weeks and say, all right, this is when I know I have something happening, so this is how I want to get forward. I can get ahead in my readings. The readings are generally listed in the syllabus. Your course modules, which is where your materials are. There's a couple of demo modules from other courses, and these normally take a week of time, and they release by the week, so you kind of get a trail of breadcrumbs. So I'm not going to get overwhelmed by getting all 8 weeks of my course or 4 weeks of my course or 16 weeks of my course. I'm going to get 1 week at a time in bite-sized chunks. Discussion boards where I can interact with other students. An overview of some Blackboard tools and assignments. I think the more interesting parts for people is to jump in here and see
what an actual module looks like.
What an actual module looks like. At the top, we have our objectives for the module, which for a learner, that's where do you want to focus. So if I'm reading a scholarly article on the built environment, that might get, depending on your personality, a little boring after a while. But if I can use my objectives to target what I'm looking for in that reading, then as a learner, I'm going to be more successful. I have a to-do list for the module, what I need to read, what I need to post on the discussion board. And then the class notes here is your lecture materials, your written summary from your instructor, all about the build environment. I have a video here, a little image. Here's a PowerPoint slide. So in this, here's the instructor. You can see that she's recorded a voice over PowerPoint, and I can go slide by slide here and listen to what she has to say. Required reading. So my discussion board assignment. So you can see it's all laid out here for you as the learner. You know, and what's cool is you don't have to do this in order. So you might say, hey, I've got an hour. I'm going to stay after work late, and I've got an hour to do this before I have to run out the door to do something else. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this reading that's for the discussion board.
Mhm.
And then later in the week, I'll go back and I'll watch that recording. Or I
Mhm.
only have time right now to watch the recording. So I'm going to watch the
Mhm.
recording and take notes.
Right.
And then I'm going to go do something else. And then later I'll come back and I'll do that
Right.
discussion board assignment.
One of the other things that I've always found so useful is the estimated time in each different module as to how much time it might take you to complete this section. And so that's been super helpful. So I will look into the module, on a Sunday night when it's released and say, okay, this week it's, estimated to take me about 6 to 8 hours. So last week was maybe a little bit less. So how do I rearrange this week? The following week, and the course that I was taking was more than that. And so I had to change kind of the way I was laying out that week to accommodate for that. So that information is so helpful for you as you plan what's going to happen that week.
And not every course has that, so
Mhm.
you're lucky duck in that case. But
Take
also,
the courses I took.
it's it can be hard to judge, right?
Yeah.
So you might be a great reader and you can cruise through something pretty quickly, and somebody else really wants to take the time and print it out and highlight it and write in the margins and really do that. So
it's a little subjective, but I think it gives you a gauge as to say, okay, it's at least going to be this.
And it's once again manual versus stick shift. So it is based against when you're taking especially an online credit course, it goes through the same shared governance process as our on-campus courses. So it must be as rigorous for national accreditation, for regional accreditation, for the university. So you will not be doing more work in your online course. You're going to be doing different work.
Excellent point. Thank you so much. I do have a couple questions coming in. Is there anything else you want to show us in Blackboard real quick before
I don't. Do the questions ask us to show anything else?
I don't. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to see? I always want to see the discussion boards because that's such an important part as well. And I think it's so we'll take a quick look at that.
Well, the tricky part is it's a demo course, so we have guest access, so we can't. There's no discussion board
happening.
To see. But if you go from here, you can see what happens when I click this link. So they have a link here to. Oh, we need to update the link.
So the discussion, sometimes you'll see, because there's another plugin that sometimes the instructors have in different courses called Yellow Dig. What is kind of the difference? So sometimes in the course that I took online, it was in the Blackboard discussion board, but then other courses that I've seen online are sometimes in the Yellow Dig discussion board. Is it a little bit mixed right now in some of our courses?
It is. Yeah. So it's instructor choice. So Yellow Dig is a little bit designed more like Facebook or Twitter versus our discussion boards in these courses, which are a little bit more
almost
threaded, more of a traditional discussion forum than you will see in Reddit or other social media.
So we do have a couple of different questions here too. This is a great one related to from Marta. How do you? Yeah, go for it. Let's stop sharing the screen. Just hang with us because we're going to keep answering those questions. Don't go anywhere. And so Marta says, how do you make the print easier to read on the module? Can you increase? Is that what you mean, Marta? Increasing the actual text size? And I'm thinking we must be able to do that.
Sure can.
Yeah. Okay.
So you can in your web browser, on a PC, it's Control and then the plus sign. You can zoom in and zoom out. And on a Mac, I believe it's Control or Command. It's Command on a Mac. Or I'm also of the generation that I call it the Open Apple symbol, but I don't think it's Open Apple anymore. For those of you that were using an Apple IIc in 1987 with me. So you can zoom in. You can zoom in that way. You can always copy and paste it.
Yeah. So that's so that you could have it and to take notes in it too. I think that's a really great tip.
Once again, a hidden little secret of taking an online course is I can, if something's really interesting, I can copy and paste it into a Word document and save it onto my computer.
Yeah. And reference it later on. So we do have a couple other questions. Mary Beth says, will we get student ID and login information to get into Blackboard? For example, the one online course starts in 2 weeks. When will we be starting to get our materials? You should be starting to get those very soon. You will get them in advance. I believe the course that I took, I think it was about 2 weeks, if not maybe a week out.
1 week.
Yeah, 1 week. So it was the welcome and...
Yes, so for our professional courses, our goal is always to try to open them up a little early. So I said we start on a Wednesday, and so we strive to open those up Friday.
Great.
It doesn't always happen because there's, like everything in the world, there's always some last minute things that sneak up on you. But we try to open them up on Friday so that people have the time to get in.
Yeah, take a look.
and take a
Yeah,
look
that
and
was really
say,
helpful.
do I know what I'm getting into? I want to look ahead. I want to make a plan. Um,
Hmm. Great.
so
Yeah, that's a really, thank you for sharing that. We also have a question from Catherine. The certification program I'm enrolled in doesn't start until October. When will I get information about ID login and some kind of student portal and Blackboard? About a week in advance. As Pete mentioned, on our website at learn.uvm.edu under student,
mhm.
there is online learning tools and various different information in there. So if you want to reach out and look at that in advance. Kelly, would you also put in our email address? Because shoot us an email too. If there's something that you are concerned about, a question like increasing font size and things like that, please let us know, because our hope is to, and our intention is to make sure this is a great experience for you. So if there's something that you're concerned about or have a question, please do reach out to us and let us know. I'm keeping an eye on those questions too. What do you do when a link or a video doesn't work in the course?
Ah,
That's a great
email the
question.
instructor,
Yeah.
right? Because sometimes links
Yeah. And you don't
break
know it. Yeah.
between when you get up in the morning and when you go to do the assignment. Sometimes they've been broken for a while, in which case we do a QA process before we roll out a course, and we click on all the links.
Right.
But sometimes they break between week 1 and week 2.
Right.
So email the instructor first thing. Email the instructor. Hey, I'm trying to do this. Link doesn't work. Next, uh, I
There's
try to
tech
Google.
help too.
I try to Google it. Right. A lot of the times, we need to give credit where credit is due. So if I'm asking you to read an article from Forbes about this,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm going to Google Forbes 7 ways to do something better.
Right.
Mm,
Maybe you find it.
Maybe I find it,
Yeah.
right? And if not, then I send out the email. I spend 5 minutes looking to see if I can find the thing. And if I can't find the thing, then they'll get back to me, right? And
Right.
then I've done my part, right? Spread the responsibility.
Right. Good point. Thank you, Pete. I just wanted to make note quickly of the different, the variety of online courses that we do have starting within the next couple of days to next month. Listing here just a few highlights in our digital marketing, our fundamentals professional certificate. So that's the 8-week course. We also have what we call our digital marketing school, shorter, intensive, topical courses like web analytics and data driven decision making. Those courses, especially the short 4-week courses, do evolve and change, and different ones are offered at different times. So if that's an area you're interested in, I highly recommend that you just keep looking and back in to see what courses are coming and when they're opening. We are offering our cannabis science and medicine professional certificate again. That course always sells out, and so that's really important for if that's something that you're interested in doing and jumping in there and registering. New this semester as well is professional certificate in cannabis plant biology. We did have a webinar actually with Dr. Monique McHenry last week, and so we'd be happy to share that if you email us and if you're interested in learning more about those 2 courses. Online stores and e-commerce management, again, looking in the digital marketing space, getting down into something very specific in terms of merchandising in an e-commerce store. That starts later in October. And then our end of life doula professional certificate. There's a current course happening now, and then our next one starts in October as well. Rebecca has a question. She's located on the West Coast. Do you find the time zones might make a difference in discussion boards and assignments? Thoughts?
Yes, because everything's set to East Coast time.
Right.
So that's, I think, just a mental hurdle that you kind of have to think about is that, when my instructor's setting whatever, they're kind of thinking on an East Coast time frame. But it doesn't matter. I don't care if you do your work at midnight West Coast time.
Right.
You turn it in like midnight West Coast time.
Right.
I think it may trigger a deadline on your assignment. It might give you a little flag that, hey, you turned it in late because it was set to an East Coast time. So I think that might be the only thing you have to keep an eye on.
Right.
In which case, I would email my instructor
let the
and
instructor
say,
know. Yep, where you're
look,
from.
I'm living here in Santa Barbara or San Francisco or Santa Cruz. Let's keep going with the S names. And I want to know, does it matter? Is this, if I turn something in at midnight
Pacific
West Coast time,
right?
Is that going to make a difference to you? And I hope the answer is no, because
it shouldn't. No.
Yeah.
And the discussions I found they're not
Doesn't matter.
they're yeah, I mean it wasn't necessarily a live discussion. It was feedback on your points that you were making and interacting with different classmates. And when the course I was taking, I was seeing comments coming because you can see what time people made comments all hours.
All
And
hours.
so it was very obvious as well in the course that I was taking that people were on different time zones because or they were just up at 3 in the morning. So I guess it could have been either.
Yeah.
We do have a couple more questions. Catherine says, will Blackboard automatically update the due date time or will it stay automatically on East Coast time?
Ooh. I'll have to Google this one, Catherine. As I was answering this question, I'm like, wow, I should know the answer to
You
these
should know
questions.
the answer to these things. We'll find out. Let's get
We'll
back
find
to you
out.
on that. Yeah, I don't necessarily, I guess it didn't apply to me because I was on East Coast time, but that's a great question. As we do have folks joining our courses from all over the country. And so that's something
Right.
that,
My gut tells me that a lot of it is set to East Coast time and that it does not automatically update.
right.
Just knowing from working with some some instructors releasing things for a very specific set of time. I
Mhm.
worked with an undergraduate course that was preparing students to take the CPA exam, and so
Right.
then it was very important to the students and the instructor that they really mimicked that experience. And
Right.
so we had some students uh, taking that exam on the West Coast that had to adjust their
Their
time frame
time.
to meet
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
small window.
Right.
Like I got 60 minutes to take my 60 questions to get ready for that CPA exam. A lot of the times in our professional course, just adds caveat, um, there's not a lot of testing
Right.
for
Right.
in grad level courses or professional courses. Um,
Here's a great question too from Susan. Do holidays such as Thanksgiving and Christmas affect online courses?
ooh, uh, well, we don't run any courses over Christmas,
Yeah. So I was
so
going to say, I'm
no.
pretty sure we don't have a
Um,
course over Christmas or Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Over
So
Thanksgiving,
there, yeah.
generally one of two things happens: is that it's acknowledged in the syllabus as a really busy week for people, and
Mm,
it is either a lighter load or a gimme week. Like, hey, have fun catching up this week. We'll
right.
see you on
Right.
Monday.
Yeah.
Or it's we understand that this is happening and that school might not be everyone's priority, so we're going to adjust the things you have to do this week accordingly.
Great. And Rebecca, thank you. It does, you made a good point. Sounds like she should let her instructor know she's on Pacific time. And I think that's a good idea. And again, engage with your instructor. This is not a course that you need to sit there and feel like you're in a silo. The instructors really want to engage with you. And what I have found is that many of our instructors continue that networking and that engagement opportunity long after the course is done. And so I think that all of our instructors really want to see the student succeed. And so whether you have a question a year and a half later or during the course, they really welcome that interaction. Andrea says, why are we using Adobe Connect? In my online courses, we've used Zoom for the online discussion. Does UVM use both? Yes, we use
Yes.
both. Yeah. And there's a longer answer as to why we're using Adobe Connect today. But the short answer is yes, we do use both. Thank you for asking that as well. So I'm going to pause there unless we have other questions. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today, for your patience with a slight glitch in the video. We really appreciate you sticking around and giving us a minute to be able to fix that. We hope that there has been some encouraging tips to have you feel successful as you enter either your first online course or a refresher as to how you maybe can succeed a little bit better in a current online course. So thank you, Diane. We appreciate your time and everyone for being here today. And as you saw there, our email address was up in the chat box. So if you do have other questions, concerns, please let us know.